Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to have you with us. And we are going to start this day by talking about herbal remedies, things that you can take outside of traditional medication, big pharma or over-the-counter stuff to make you feel better. And he's been studying and practicing this stuff for literally decades. And that would be indigenous medicine. And he's back with us. Learn so much every time we have him on. Douglas Becker on the program. Hi, Douglas. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. I ran into somebody the other day that practices herbal medicine, and they actually make tinctures, like different blends of herbs, and ashwagandha and kava kava. I was told great for relieving some stress, stomach issues, things like that. So they gave me something. I haven't tried it yet. What are your thoughts on that? I know that's kind of in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, well, if you're wanting to use it you're wanting to use those for stress, basically.
I had mentioned that. Yeah.
I mean, there's some interesting things about those. For instance, like ashwagandha is also really good for parasites.
I hope I don't have to deal with that.
And like kava kava actually, although it does relax you, it increases your athletic performance. I forget the term. There's a term for like your peak time of when you and you can't go beyond that. You kind of, your body starts to like break down or give up. Kava kava actually increases that time. So like, for instance, runners, they can use kava kava and their performance will be even peaking more. It relaxes the muscles. I think what happens at a certain point, the muscles start to stay tight because you're working out so much or you're pushing the body so much. So kava kava expands that time as well. So, I mean, yeah, if you take things in the nighttime, whatever herb you use, it's going to help you deal with stress. It'll maximize the effect on stress.
Maximize meaning what?
Meaning that it will affect you more for stress. It'll relieve the stress more.
Gotcha. Okay.
Rather than if you take it in the beginning of the day or in the middle of the day. Yeah.
Interesting. So my first thought would probably be take it in the morning, but you're saying take it in the evening?
Take it in the evening, yeah. And the compounding effect will mean that you'll have greater relaxation throughout the day.
Wow. Okay. And it's paired with ashwagandha, and it's all in one tincture. And I believe it's just the two of those. I haven't had it yet. It's literally 20 drops, which is 1 milliliter, is the suggested dosage, and it doesn't smell good. What I'm gonna say. And you can use the water, I believe, right? A couple ounces of water is one. But hey, if it gets the job done, makes you feel better, why not? How about some other herbal remedies, things that we can take to
there's some things that people don't know too much of. For instance, like coughing, respiratory issues. Really, really helpful is black pepper. You can mix black pepper in some honey, and it's really helpful for that.
And when would you take that?
You would take that in the morning time.
And it would just be literally honey, some black pepper.
Some black pepper. Yeah. Traditional, there's a traditional formula where they mix black pepper, long pepper, it's called pipali, and ginger. It's called trickatu. And then sometimes they even add that they use that for digestion, for the breathing. I'm trying to remember, I think it's black pepper. Oh, I forget. I think it might be black pepper, licorice, and sugar or something is like a traditional remedy for the thing. But yeah, just black pepper by itself is really helpful. Another really helpful thing is green cardamom, the little green pods, cardamom spice. That's really helpful for the kidneys. It can help remove kidney stones, actually, even within a couple days.
Wow.
You take a handful of like if you're peeing and the stream of pee is going in two different directions, that's an indication you could have some stones. And so you can take, like, it'll help remove bladder stone, kidney stone. And what you would do is you take a handful of the cardamom pods and you boil it up until half the water is gone, and then you drink that throughout the day. And
Wow.
it has a really amazing effect on that. Another thing that's really helpful is black cardamom, or it's also called greater cardamom. It's bigger. It's about 3 times as big as regular cardamom. You can find it in Asian stores or online. And it's really helpful for giving you the sense of more strength and power. It nourishes your spleen and your stomach. Like if your stomach's feeling messed up, especially like when we transition from one season to another season, it's really helpful. And you just open it up and eat it. The seeds taste a lot like regular cardamom, but they're a little bit more camphory. Kind of has a camphory kind of taste. Tastes good, freshens the breath, and really helpful for the stomach. Yeah, like very, very quickly helps. And if you use it regularly for a few days, you'll feel like more strength and power and like backup support for your physical demands, you know?
Is when you work with somebody, are these some of the things that you would
Yeah, absolutely.
set them up like?
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm
Yeah,
like,
these are, they're easy to get. The remedies that I suggest aren't I mean, some people tell me that they're very inexpensive. I mean, compared to pharmaceuticals, yeah, they're super cheap.
sure.
But like the remedies I suggest to people are sometimes $2 a day. So for 30 days, it's $60. I mean, that might not be expensive to some people that might be expensive. But instead of that, they can get green cardamom, or they can get black cardamom, and they can do simple things. Even blackstrap molasses has an amazing effect on what we were talking about before, called the wind. It
Mhm.
helps the wind. And in naturopathic kind of biotrain medicine stuff, they use it for helping with too much fire. Really calms the system. And it's really good if someone has like low blood pressure or they're anemic. It's full of minerals, not just iron. And that's why it's been known as a folk remedy for so long. Blackstrap molasses is known around the world, as
Uh,
this incredible medicine. Sugar, it's interesting. I was writing something the other day. If you don't really have much um, knowledge of traditional indigenous medicine, sugar is going to be the evilest thing. You're just going to, like, because as you look on it, it's just bad for you all across the board. It's bad this,
you know what's
but
I have to
in
tell you, as soon
yeah,
as you say the word sugar,
right,
honestly, after learning about all this stuff, I get triggered.
yeah,
Right away. I'm not even kidding you. I'm like,
yeah,
in my brain as soon as you said it. And for a moment, I thought, well, maybe he's got something good to say about sugar, and this could be interesting, something different.
yeah.
But of course,
Sugar's been used everywhere for medicine by the traditional people.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's because it's so full of minerals. you know it's considered to be so healthful for the body. But we're talking about like pressed sugarcane juice, or like that type of thing. When it's refined, there's even a certain level of refined sugar used in Asian medicine, and it's known to be really good. It's much better for when you have catabolic dominant, or when you have more free radical oxidation. It's better for you. When it's kind of harder to get going than the brown sugar, or the not like we call brown sugar, but like the just pure dried cane juice seems to be better. but it's full of minerals, and it's considered, the sweet taste is considered to be the primary taste that builds the body. But traditionally, the sweet taste also includes meat, and includes grain, and includes a lot of things. But yeah, so that's kind of interesting. You find that in a lot of traditional remedies, they have molasses added or sugar added. And part of that's because there's this concept that things can carry medicine deeper into the body. So, for instance, if you're what we've talked about before, anabolic dominant or anaerobic, systemically anaerobic, that where you're kind of just off. Honey has a really special quality in it, and some people interpret it as scraping. It kind of scrapes the system, and it's actually heating rather than cooling. Most sweet stuff is cooling, so this actually heats up the body. And if, for instance, if you're overweight and you can't really do much, you have a little bit of honey and water before you eat, and that's a sure method to start to lose weight.
Really?
Yeah, it helps you lose weight. Actually, drinking water, but just drinking water before a meal helps you lose weight. Drinking water after a meal helps you gain weight.
Let's do that again.
Yeah, drinking water before a meal helps you to lose weight. Drinking water after a meal helps you to gain weight. Yeah, this is coming from traditional Tibetan medicine, which again is an integration of all these different ancient traditional medicine systems. And
Yeah.
honey in particular will, if you mix a little honey before you eat with the water, it'll have even more of a profound effect.
Does it happen that way? Does it have anything to do with the fact that you're filling up with water before a meal and you eat less? Or
I don't know, maybe.
all
I mean,
right.
it could be a few different reasons. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. The some of these things, it's kind of like, it's when I first got into all this stuff, I was like, I kind of put it on the shelf. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Like, I don't, like I heard they had there was one thing they were doing to help cure cancer, and there at the time I was vegan, and they were the method that they were doing for this one cancer case, or this one type of cancer, is they would give the person a whole bunch of ghee, which is clarified butter. And I was just thinking, oh my God, these people don't know what they're talking about. This is like terrible for you. It's like dairy product. It's filling the body up with, and it was only after I learned more physiology and chemistry, and understood the fats, that I could understand that, like a catabolic or dysaerobic dominant system with cancer, like a hot cancer, it would totally help the body with that. And so it was brilliant. And that's kind of one of the main things that made me be like, wow, I need to like go back in. And then I found there were several things I think that happened like that, where eventually I'm just like, I'm going to now more be like, lean on the side that they knew what they were talking about, and they used it for thousands of years with effectiveness, and try to understand maybe why it's effective.
Mhm.
But before like putting it on, I'm more likely to take that advice and utilize it with confidence than I am to put it on the shelf and wait to see whether or not it's actually valid.
Well, it's been years ago, and even not that many. I want to say 8 or so, maybe 10 tops. There was I don't want to call it a report, but everybody was talking about butter. Stop using butter. Bad. Don't use butter. Bad, bad, bad. Try some of the alternative spreads. And then it got flipped around, and many, I guess, nutritionists said, don't go for that artificial stuff. Go back to the butter. Butter's okay for you. It's all right. Everything seems to pivot back and forth. But then you always wonder, same thing with eggs. Eggs were okay way back in the day. Then it turned into eggs are bad, cholesterol, don't eat eggs. Now it's like eggs, yeah, they're actually pretty good for you.
Yeah, that all came from the same report, that study that they did. And 6 months after that report, the person announced that they had been paid off by industry, and so they did another research to see whether or not that was true. And sure enough, they came up with the conclusion that it actually wasn't bad for you. Saturated fat and cholesterol wasn't bad for you in your
Yeah.
diet. But then the industry had been making a lot of money, and for whatever reason, maybe they somehow were behind the stalling of changing the policy. The medical industry repeated studies like that for 20 years before they finally said, yeah, we're wrong, you guys, and they announced it publicly in the British American Journal, and I think it was 1999. So yeah, so back to honey. So honey can be used as a carrier that carries a medicine, carries an herb that like helps you turn on, for instance. It can carry that deeper into the system and affect you with greater effectiveness. For instance, like butter or ghee, if you mix that with an herb, say to help you deal with stress or to help mitigate the effects of the wind, it will actually have a greater effect as well. That ghee will actually carry the substance deeper into your system to the place that it actually has an effect. And then for if you have a lot of fire or free radical kind of catabolic dysaerobic dominance, usually what they do is they use decoctions. So they boil the herb into a tea and then let it cool down, strain it, and drink it. And doing that in the afternoon, all the like the time and the carrier of the medicine makes a huge difference. And this, it's like there's a medical doctor named Emmanuel Ravici, and he lived to be 104, worked every day of his life for 60 years, I think. And they took his medical license away when he was 95, I think, gave it back to him when he was 98. And he was the pioneer of understanding fats and the cell membrane. And I mentioned him before, I think, if you remember. So his medicines were very similar to this type of thing. He would take, for instance, sesame oil, which turns you on. Right? It's not honey. It's sesame oil, and he would mix it with, say, something like tiny particles of gold, like nanoparticles of gold. And then that would be the medicine that would take the effect of the sesame oil, which actually changes a condition of off to on, right? Changes the cell membrane from being wrapped tight, nothing going in or out, and the lack of oxygen being prevalent. And the sesame oil coming to that site will actually change the cell, change the condition of oxygen, change the condition of water, and deposit gold, which has the same effect. So basically, he would take a mineral that turns you on, mix it with a fat that turns you on, and give it to the person. And the mineral that turns you on, it would be decided by how heavy that mineral is in terms of where the cancer was in your body. If the cancer was very deep, like in your bone, it would be a very heavy mineral. If it was in a more superficial tissue, say like your fat or even like your blood, then he would use a very light mineral. And all this is in the same concept that these substances will gravitate to the proper tissue where the problem is, and bring with it the medicine and the change that's needed there. It's really brilliant. He did have a lot of influence when he came over on the boat to when he came from Europe to Mexico. He was on the boat with an Ayurvedic master, and they must have had a lot of discussions, because when you see what he came out with, it's very similar to a lot of Ayurvedic concepts. And he was completely honored by Nobel Prize winners in medicine, and Nobel Prize winners in chemistry, Nobel Prize winners in biology, all over the world. But he was when he wrote his book to assist chemotherapy or radiation therapy with nutritional means, and kind of to like highlight how you could treat people using this idea of catabolic anabolic. He was yeah, he was totally um, uh, politicized against through the AMA and FDA. He sent them the first copy of his book as a thank you for being in the United States, and then they ended up putting out fake research and stuff.
I
So,
have,
anyways,
I have
yeah, it's
something I want to
yeah.
ask
Go
you
ahead.
about, and I'm looking for um, this. Okay, before I get to this question, because somebody brought this up the other day, I want to go back to when we talked about sugar. What are your thoughts on stevia?
I love stevia.
Okay.
Yeah, stevia. So I'll tell you my thoughts on stevia. It's absolutely has no value if you're getting it as a white powder or as a clear liquid.
Now, when you
Other,
say value, what do
no
you?
value other than that it's making the taste sweet. You know,
Okay, but let's
if you get it as a green powder, or you get the green herb, you know, the actual green herb
hmm,
for a green powder is really high in chromium. And the Japanese did studies on that in relationship to hyperglycemia and even some diabetes, and it really helped. And so there's, you know, there's the remnants of that impact has turned into, oh, you know, you can take stevia and that might help with your blood sugar issue, you know, because you're not eating sugar or a carbohydrate that's increasing your blood sugar. But what they're leaving out is actually the reason it became actually really well known wasn't just because it was known to be sweet. It's because it has a direct impact on a mineral deficiency that's connected to blood sugar problems, which is chromium and vanadium, but in general chromium.
so if you just have stevia in clear liquid or white powder, just to sweeten
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah.
it's okay. That's what we're saying. But you're saying, look for the, green powder because you'll get more benefits from it. Do I have that all right?
Yeah, yeah, basically. I mean, I like there might be studies out or some things out now about how the white powder stevia isn't good. I don't know.
Yeah,
I would never suggest it to someone because the benefits of getting the green powder are just like so incredible, you know.
gotcha. But if somebody just the difference between using Splenda or
Oh,
regular
yeah,
sugar,
yeah.
you might as well.
Yeah. No, you know, you're bringing up a very political subject, you know, like the natural sweeteners that have been created by the industry, the medical industry primarily, to help with blood sugar issues,
Hmm.
um, are riddled with side effects that you can easily find on the internet. You know, that are actually really terrible, really
Are you
terrible.
saying that the ones that are 100% natural, like stevia,
No,
or
no, not
the other
stevia.
ones?
The stuff that was promoted by the medical, you know, like if you go to the doctor and you're in the hospital and you have they're giving you your cup of coffee and you have some blood sugar issue, they're not going to give you sugar, they're going to give you NutraSweet maybe or something like that. And those things are known, like 100% known to be like really, really dangerous
Yeah,
actually for you.
carcinogens. Okay. If we have like a minute and change left, and I just heard about this, and I want to know if you've heard about it. Ormus,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
ORMUS,
yeah, I know about
use
Ormus.
gold.
Yeah.
Uh, good, bad, big marketing ploy. What do you think?
That's a whole nother subject. Yeah, so since we're talking about indigenous medicine, right? Um, the knowledge of nanomedicine as remedies, right? What we call nanomedicine today, you know, there's billions of dollars, maybe more, spent on looking into research by taking certain minerals, such as gold, for instance, and making it into tiny particles that can then enter the body and have these medical effects. Yeah, and they're used as medicine. Well, not only is the size of the particle the same, but the use is the same too. And that's found in texts that are more than 1,000 years old. That was done by the ancient people. The other thing with you know, they not just used, and they're still available. You know, gold, silver, tin, lead, mercury, um,
Mm.
diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, topaz, bismuth. These are all really specific nanomedicine that are created with a very laborious effort in a pit of that they fill with dry cow dung. They take a clay vessel. They put I could tell you more details later when we have more time. When you come to Ormus, you're talking about a state of matter that was discovered. You know, there's solid, liquid, and gas, right, in chemistry. And then there's another state that they discovered that they call ceramic. And the ceramic state is where Ormus is in. And you know, there's a lot of hype about it. You know, there's a lot of hype about it. To actually make the real stuff is highly questioned by people. Some people draw it out of salt water, and there's toxicity problems that some people talk about with salt water because of other minerals. They also make it out of gold. Suppose if you hang a piece of gold where the queen's chamber is in a kind of like you just have a model pyramid, like maybe with bars, and you hang a piece of gold. After a certain period of time, a little bit of this red oil will start to drip out of it, and that's Ormus. Yeah, there's a lot of indication about all that. You know, these are all used in the body as neurotransmitters, but there's more hype about it than not. The person that really brought it out, his name was David Hudson, and he found stuff with the Navy that they talked about using Ormus to melt this white powder into a glass, which then could be like levitated with radio frequencies, and he was connecting it with Egypt and all this stuff from Egypt. And you know, like apparently, you know, what he said is you took it for a while, and eventually you kind of turn into like your body turns into light, and you ascend. And his wife stopped him from doing the process because these angels were visiting, and it was but you know, he created a nonprofit so that he could distribute this stuff to people. He didn't want it to be commercialized. And so the more money you donated, the more Ormus you got. And people donated millions of dollars to this thing, and no one ever got any Ormus. And he disappeared. So that's
in seconds left, and we can circle back to
okay.
Ormus and other stuff like that. What you're saying is probably not something that's going to benefit you. I mean, there's so many of Ormus companies selling their version of Ormus.
They're called Platinum Series metals. Yeah, there's
all big hype. That's what I'm getting from it.
It's, you know, it's like there's a question whether they even know, like what they're using methods to quantitate what they're doing by what they've been taught and by what they've been researched.
Right.
And there's not many people like that. And that's my opinion. I have a friend that makes a lot of Ormus all the time. But like, it's not like he's obviously taking a lot of it. And I mean, he's not having a lot of amazing effects in a lot of ways. So I'm like, yeah, there could be some things, but with these indigenous things, there could be a lot of things little things that we're missing. You know, we might have some text that says something, but if you're not really taught, you know, how to do it, you can get a video course on how to make all this stuff out of turquoise, fluorite, all these different kinds of like nanoparticle size medicine. But they're clear to say, like, don't just watch this and try to do this. You really need to like have someone around to do it. And I know with quantum physics and its study with alchemy that it's very clear that you can take two people doing the exact same process. They've done this before, and they do everything the same. Every little detail is the same. The only difference is the hand stirring the substance, right? One person will end up with a red glass, another person ends up with a black glass. Nothing else is different. And they've basically shown that the energy, like the energy of the person. Their kind of subtle electromagnetic field, their intention with who knows what it actually is. They're not really sure, but they get different results.
I would love to circle back to that because I've heard that recently as well. I want to just keep talking. We're out of time. Always learn so much from you, Douglas. And
I have a suggestion. Why don't we start doing an hour talk?
Well, you know what? I think we should, because we're over the half hour now, and usually I hear it from headquarters where it's like, your guys are on too long. But you know what's great information? Indigenousmedicine.net is your website, right?
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic. And this is the kind of stuff you do for all of us that want to be healthier, take a more holistic approach. And you've said it before, folk medicine. And that's what resonates with me, because I've heard that term forever and always had a feeling that this is a holistic way. Looking forward next time we get a chance to get together, Douglas.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.